Let's take a look at Salesforce because the stock getting hit in extended trading. You're looking at losses of just around 5.5%. The company beating on both the top and bottom lines for the third quarter, but fourth quarter revenue guidance weighing on the stock just a bit. Also, co-CEO Bret Taylor is also stepping down as vice chair and co-CEO of Salesforce effective January 31st. Mark Benioff will be the chair and CEO. We want to bring in John Freeman, CFRA, a senior equity analyst, to break all this down for us. John, going into this report, you had a strong buy rating, a price target of $284. Lots to dig into in this release. I guess what's jumping out to you?
So the thing that jumped out the most, I wasn't surprised by the high operating margin. Mark Benioff said it was record operating margin. I knew that pulling back the lever right on costs was going to really, pop earnings, given the inherent operating leverage of this business, right? And it's the first quarter of them doing that. But what surprised me to the downside was that fourth quarter revenue guidance of 8% to 10% year-over-year growth. That's the first time. Look at that midpoint, 9% right now. Would be the first time, I think, in any quarter that Salesforce has only grown in single digits. Not that that necessarily means anything, but it was definitely lower than I expected, and clearly lower than the market gave back, pretty much the gains that we saw today.
And John, your reaction to Bret Taylor, the co-CEO, stepping down?
I guess I was like, surprised, but actually not that surprised. Mark Benioff is a very unique individual and an amazing CEO. And I just think it might, and I know he's trying to, groom somebody or share some of the load there, but it's the Benioff show there, right? And I don't really read much into it negatively. He's gone through a couple of these co-CEO sort of situations. And so, I don't know if I would read into it, like, for example, in a normal situation when a CEO or a CFO resigns, I don't think it's that kind of thing here.
Doesn't sound like you think you're viewing this as a huge loss, at least for now. But John, I think the big question is what's going to be the catalyst in 2023? Because Salesforce, one of the worst performers, the second worst performer in the Dow this year. We know the tech sector overall has had a very tough time over the last several months. What's it going to take to turn things around?
So the first thing is let's say nothing really changes much in the macro, right? What will happen is, what I expect to happen is that Salesforce will, grow in the low double digits, rather low teens revenue top line, but earnings should grow much faster. And I think it'll surprise people. Like the earnings beat today was pretty solid, 18 cents. And I think you're going to see that, going forward in the next couple of quarters. That will help the stock. But what we really need is a macro catalyst, something like, for example, Ukraine coming through, with a breakthrough victory, as a lot of military experts expect now. And I think that would be a catalyst. That would bring oil prices down, right? It would take some of that geopolitical risk that's been hanging over the market and kind of ease it off a bit. I think that would happen, but obviously that's something that could happen in the next couple months, or maybe not until next year.
Yeah, I was going to say, do not hold your breath on that ending anytime soon. Anything in this report give you pause about that price target that Shauna mentioned, the 284?
Well, yeah. So the guidance on revenue, that was really light again. So that gave me pause. But you know what? This company has such good fundamentals. It's such a solid core of recurring, sticky revenue. On the margins, some people might leave. People might leave the platform, but overall, it has really good economics. So I think this is a company that you want to own for the long term. And given its track record, I think it's proven itself over time as a great long-term investment, and I think it will continue to do so.
John, what about just some of those headwinds out there? Mounting competition from Microsoft Teams, also the pricing pressure that Salesforce is facing right now. How do you gauge that?
Sure. So Teams and Slack kind of are a duopoly now in the, call it the real-time collaboration space, right? And I think that's kind of a natural situation. I don't think that's I don't think one side is necessarily going to get it over on the other side, right? In situations where it's a very sales-centric organization or large sales departments inside of larger organizations, right? That Slack and Salesforce integration is really effective, and it's it definitely has a better sort of in the large enterprise anyway, a better traction than say Microsoft Teams, which has done very well as non-integrated with anything, but sort of a platform for collaboration. And I don't necessarily see share take there being a big deal. What I do see is enterprise cloud migration continuing apace, particularly because of all this financial pressure. These companies want to go asset light, go more agile. So I think on a relative basis, compared to legacy software like Oracle, I think they got big problems.
Excellent stuff from John Freeman. Appreciate you being here, sir.